Welcome to the deep dive. We're here to look past the daily headlines and really get into the trends that count. And today, it's all about home ownership. Feels like it's always in the news, right? Cooling markets, rising rates, affordability. It's a lot.
hmm
So we want to unpack what the latest data actually tells us about, the long-term financial side of owning a home.
Hmm,
Maybe it's different from what you'd expect.
exactly. And we've got some really solid data for this deep dive. It's from ATTOM. They're a major property data company, tracks sales, equity, all that stuff across the US. And their latest report gives this incredibly clear snapshot of seller profits, gross profits, mind you, before costs. It's,
So
it's revealing.
that sounds like exactly what we need, clarity. So the big question for us today is, how has owning a home, sort of quietly, stayed such a reliable way to build wealth, even now when things feel so uncertain? Let's dig in. Okay, so let's kick off with this fact from AT Tom. It really grabbed me. The average person who sold their home last quarter, they'd owned it for 8.18 years. 8.18 years? Is that
Yeah.
is that a lot?
Oh, absolutely. That's the longest average holding period they've recorded in at least 25 years,
Yeah.
quarter century. And what's really interesting is how clearly it links that time, that longevity, with patience as an investment strategy in real estate.
Okay.
It shows people are really holding on, riding out the ups and downs, playing the long game, basically.
And did that patience pay off? What was the result for these sellers who held on for over 8 years? Because this part is, well, pretty astonishing. They saw an average profit of 50%. 50. That's a huge equity gain, isn't it?
It really is a massive game. And if you put it in context, think about before the pandemic. Back then, maybe a 30% profit was, pretty standard, pretty good.
Right.
Like hitting an average of 50% gross profit now, that's substantially higher. It just highlights the kind of appreciation we've seen.
Okay, but I know what some listeners are probably thinking right now. You hear so much about the housing market cooling off, right? There's talk of buyer fatigue, even some prices dipping here and there. So these big profit numbers, they might sound a bit surprising. How does that work?
That's a really important question because, yes, you hear that narrative, and it's true. Profit margins have dipped a bit from those, let's call them the super hot days of 2021, 2022. But calling it a downturn isn't quite right. It's more like market normalization.
Normalization. Okay.
Yeah, we had years of just unsustainable double-digit growth. Things are settling. Prices have mostly stabilized. But, and this is the key thing, they've stabilized at a very high level. They've stayed elevated, even with higher mortgage rates.
Okay, so they didn't crash back down.
Not broadly, no.
So the main takeaway then,
Yeah.
what this really means for homeowners, is that even if you didn't sell at the absolute crazy peak, you're still benefiting significantly if you've owned for a while. That long-term ownership translates to real money, just staying put, paid off.
Precisely. Look, timing the absolute peak, it's nearly impossible. Nobody really does that consistently in any market. What this ATTOM data keeps showing, quarter after quarter, is that owning for the long haul is still one of the most reliable ways for regular people to build wealth. And it's not just appreciation, remember. Think about fixed-rate mortgages. Inflation helps chip away at the real value of your debt over time while your asset, your home, hopefully grows in value.
That really brings it home for you listening right now. It makes you think about the power of just perspective, a long-term view, not just in houses, but maybe in all sorts of financial decisions. How patience, applied thoughtfully, can create these gains that you don't see if you're just watching the daily news cycle.
Mm-hmm. And maybe that's the final thought to leave you with, this idea of the enduring value of patience. How does that apply beyond owning a home? Where else in your life? If you stick with something long-term, could be your career, learning a skill, maybe other investments. Where else might you find those surprising substantial gains that aren't obvious day to day?
That's a great question to ponder, isn't it? Something to think about. What other long-term things in your life might be quietly building value, just needing that patience to really show what they're worth?